Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the concluding session of Engage 5.0, the fifth edition of Steelmint's webinar series. We discussed a range of topics over the last 3 days, having started the webinar series on 6th December. In this concluding session, we will be discussing a highly interesting subject: why bulk scrap vessels are gaining prominence in India. I'm Madhumita Mukherjee, Group Editor, Steel Mint, and co-hosting this webinar with me is my colleague Jayaprakash Sahu, who is the team lead for the recycling, non-ferrous and stainless steel vertical in Steel Mint. Jayaprakash is joining me in Kolkata from Raipur. Welcome to the session, Jayapi.
Thank you, Manita ma'am, for the introduction.
Dear viewers, please send your queries in the chat box so that we can address them at suitable points in the webinar.
Yeah.
JP,
so
would you like to continue?
Yeah. So as you all are aware that India's ferrous scrap import is rising in new heights. I think in 2022 we had imported around 3.7 million ton. Total, 7.7 million ton. And earlier the volume was around 3.7 million ton only. So it has grown twofold in the 2022. In 2023, if we look into the numbers, we are already going to cross the 10 million ton here in India. If you look into the bulk vessels, which is one of the unique trend which has emerged here in India in scrap trade flow. Usually, India is traditionally a container buyer, containerized scrap buyer, just because of the smaller volume. But since last year, I think we are getting a lot of bulk vessels here in India, and the volume was around 18 to 20% in overall. So it will be interesting to see means what were the factors which supported the bulk vessels. And here we have a prominent speaker from the Europe. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That's right, JP. In fact, India, as we know, is the second largest scrap importer. And over January, September, we have seen a 97% increase to 8 million tons already. And again, we can put it down to good home demand and inadequate domestic generation of scrap. But why are Indian buyers more focused on bulk scrap procurement rather than containerized? Is it cost viability, easy availability, or geopolitical factors? So, what are the contrasting costs between containers and bulk shipments? What are the European supply prospects like? What are the financial obstacles in procuring bulk cargoes? We will explore all these aspects. And to add value to the discussion, we have our special guest this afternoon, Mr. Edwin Krebs. He's a sales manager at Tolmex. Mr. Krebs has extensive experience in supply chain management and strong understanding of end-to-end supply chain process, from procurement and inventory management to logistics and distribution. Over to you, JP.
Yeah, so if we talk about the Tolmex is a leading scrap recycling company situated in the Baltics, and they are one of the largest recycler in the region. They are in the recycling industry for last 25 years, not only in the recycling part, but also they are in ship recycling business also. So it also does site dismantling, logistics, container services, along with the recycling. Welcome to the Engage 5.0, Mr. Krebs.
Thank you so much for having me. I hope we will have a really fruitful discussion here. So I really hope you can help me with the presentation because I had some technical difficulties. But I think we'll manage together.
Yeah. So I think you may be getting the options to host the PPT now, sir. I think you are now the host of the session. So you may be getting the options to host the PPT.
Yeah. So let's start.
Can you?
Are you getting the share screen option now?
Yeah.
I'm still not having it. Really, still don't have it. Can you try to share the presentation from your screen, please?
Yes, I think JP, you might as well start presenting the document.
when you go to the triple dot, which is appearing in my window, and make me host from your side.
Oh, that's where? Sorry.
From my window, statement events, my photo is there, coal mines, and just above
Oh,
that, there will be 3 dots, and just
yeah.
make me host.
Make host.
Yeah, thank you.
Here you go.
Yeah, so now I will be able to share the screen. I think we should have a good ID skills.
Yeah, perfect.
So I guess the screen must be visible to the viewers.
Yeah, it is visible.
Yeah. Yes, Mr. Edwin, you can start. Yes, Mr. Edwin, you can continue.
Start with basics, like what's the main differences with containers and bulk shipments in general? Like, I'm not talking to India, but in general, like it is. So let's start. First, I want to break down it to you, like in statistics, simply plain statistics, like for last couple of years, like 5, 6, 7 years, and then we'll go to the recent period, about year, 1.5. So if you see that in general, India's imports are really raising each year, constantly. Of course, 2021, 22, we had COVID that's really screwed us all, really, basically. But if you see what we are talking about, the bulk arrivals in India, yeah, you can see that the main for the last year, 17 to 12, 20, it was like 5%. You see, like 8, 5, 9, 10. Small amount of ratio was only arrived in bulk. Rest was simply procured with containers. Then COVID started, of course. Yeah, there's understandable that it was really difficult to work with bulk vessels because it's quite hard in that sense. Next, once COVID was over, we see that really there was huge increase. Like in 2022, 2023, it was really quite substantial amount of 20% almost of bulk vessels arriving in India. Can you move a bit further? Next slide. If we split it like in the last half a year, we see also the trend that from August, it's really increased until March of this year, February actually. But about the reasons why it dropped so fast, it was because of the freight rate, but we'll touch that a bit later, just to see and understand the general amounts of bulk vessels arrival. Can we move a bit further? So just to break down it, let's take first containers, pros and cons, and then let's move to bulk. For containers, the plus side for buyers in India for steel mills, it's good that you can choose always from different sources. You can try one guy, you can try another company, you can try third one. Of course, it's kind of safe side. Also, with the financial flow, you can do like pay if it's 400 for per ton, you will pay like 50,000 per container. It's nothing much. There's not much risk there, right? If you move also, if you understand that India for years and years and years bought only in containers, they are kind of in a comfort zone. Yeah. They know really well this market. They understand how to do it, the logistics, the everything part. But the bulk is like something completely different and they don't know. So it's better safe to stick with the containers. When I talk to Indian mills, like or traders, and when I offer, for example, we sell them containers, a lot of containers, yeah. And when we start talking, oh, maybe let's try do some bulk, and they're like, oh, no, we're afraid, we don't like it, we don't know it, it's kind of difficult for us. So it's really on a good side because they're just feeling safe, and the risk of losing some kind of money there is really small, yeah. But if you can call them pros, of course. If you look from the bad side, for example, it's transit time. If you sign a contract in November with shipment period in December, right? While the container will arrive to India, it will take about 2 months. Maybe if it's some difficulties, it will take even longer. Same. Also, when containers arrive, you have to deal with logistics from their side. Of course, how each mill wants to handle it. Either they do logistics themselves or they ask for outsource. Anyway, still, if a steel mill needs 5,000 tons per month, yeah, it means all it's almost 500 containers, more even. So it's 200 containers. So to do 200 containers per month, you will either way you will at some point face demurrage and detention charges. Shipping lines are charging really high. The cost for it is quite substantial. Also, for example, if you buy from Europe, Europe is quite large and there are different regions, but every region has seasons. In our region, it's like winter is coming. There is in autumn already, grain season is about to start. Fertilizer season is about to start. So there is problem with containers. I mean, with equipment, in that sense, you can't get them right in the right amount really much. So that's also a problem for that. Also, for containers, there is an issue that the freight rate is really fluctuating. It's if with bulk, it's plus minus, it's quite stable, but with containers, you really can't predict it. We'll touch about freight rates a bit later, but just for now. Also about quality, we already discussed this before. Uh, Indian buyers are facing issues with quality with containers. But I think that's the main problem for that is because buyers are using many sources. And to be honest, historically, not all of sellers were being honest. They loaded some dirt, they loaded some soil, something, and they had a bad experience. But now, since it's 21st century, we see that not many, some of suppliers are becoming more honest. They're playing open game, yeah. But unfortunately, due to some other market participants, some our competitors, like they do bad things, but the reputation suffers for whole Europe. That's right, really bad. So, in that sense, buying containers, it's quite a risky move, really. Also, you can have delays many times. Again, if a transit time for container it's 2 months, if container gets stopped in Germany, it's for a month. You pay for inspection, you pay everything, but the main problem is the delay itself. Something can happen at transshipment ports. Something can go wrong on the voyage. That's really not predictable in that sense. Also, again, if a steel mill per month uses, for example, those 5,000 tons, it is a huge flow of containers for them. You have to understand. But to do these 200 containers, it's quite amount, really large, and it from logistics side it doesn't really work that well if you use that amount. If the volume that steel mill uses per month is higher, that it's even more crazier. So let's move on to bulk, please. if you talk about bulk, there are a plus side about, for example, about the quality. The same I mentioned about containers that you source from different suppliers, the material, but each time you don't know what you're getting because buyers, they are not going to the supplier and seeing material. It happens really rarely. But when you buy bulk vessel, you can participate. You arrive to the supplier, you see how they're going, you see the material, you participate in the loading. The idea is that you can influence what material is loaded and what is not. For example, if all the time you're there, if you don't like some piece of
We've
to
lost the sound there.
separate that or remove it or change with another part, it's completely okay, because you have to understand that with bulk shipments, it's not buyer seller, we're partners here, we're both doing it. So also from our me as a supplier, my main goal is to make you satisfied, make buyer satisfied with the material, with the quality, with everything. So we invite them to come to see how it's going. To you, they can basically choose what's being loaded or not. That's a really big pro. Also, the transit time. If for container it takes 2 3 months, for bulk vessel it takes 2 3 weeks to reach India, I mean West Coast, for example. That means if at November you sign contract to buy scrap, it means in 1.5 months from the signing of the contract, you will already have the material at your disposal, which is really, really fast, kind of. Also, again, what I mentioned, price performance ratio. It's about the thing that you buy material, which is really good for you. You don't buy cat in a bag. You know what you're paying for. Also, when bulk arrives, there is never there. You don't have to pay detention demurrage, like I mean excessive. When you sign the contract, you know what your port. For example, if you send a vessel to Kandla, yeah, first you talk, buyer talks to the stevedore, to their logistics company, and finds out what is the discharge rate in that particular port. If you're buying, for example, 30,000 tons and the discharge rate is 3,000 per day, so you know it will take 10 days only. And plus minus everything will go either as demurrage, either as dispatch. And by dispatch, as I mean, you can get even money if you unload faster it. Of course, if you have to be honest when you bring these details of the discharge rate. But it's a way that you can save money on logistics. It's really good. Also, on that side, on transit, there is basically no risk of delays. Delay might be for 1 2 days, because with vessel we charter the vessel only for you. There won't be any stops on the route. We know how it's going. We know it well in advance when there is like congestion in some, for example, at the Suez Canal. We know it. We know that the vessel will go through it in 1.5 days. So we calculate it and we know it in advance. Again, as I mentioned, open books, it's really important, because with bulk, we are both in it. It's not like we just sell it and take it and it's your responsibility. We do it together. We have nothing to hide. That's why we always invite buyers to come to participate in everything in this sense. It's they know everything, how it's going. That's really, really a big plus, because they can participate in the whole process. This is really good. Also, stability of material. I mean that you don't have to do these hundreds of containers per month, but you get one load and you're stable. At some point, you see that the pile is coming down and you can procure again, and you will be again secured with the material. Last thing is what I wanted to mention is you pay only for what you bought. With that, I mean that the contract is really, really thorough in that sense. There is no risk, for example, if you buy 30,000 tons, but you receive 29, you will still get that paid for that 1,000 tons that you didn't get. Or if for some reason there is some problems with materials, also you will get like compensation for that, because it's really, we sell what you need, what you buy. There is no lefts or rights. It's completely honest business in that sense. As a minus, there are two actually. First one I would like to take is it takes time to get the first deal done. By that, what I wanted to say is you can just, of course you can, but I don't suggest you just in one day you buy and let's deal it. First, we want to sit down with you. We want to talk what you need. How is your logistics built? How we do it? How is the contract done? And then we see, then time moves on. If we see that the price is right, the rate is good, the market is there, there is demand for the finished products of the steel mill, they can come and they can buy already. But it won't happen in a day or two or a week. It might take some time, but it's completely okay because you just want to be safe on that matter. Second thing is sleepless nights. This is, by this I mean, I remember very well my first vessel to India. It was, just on a side note, we deal about 30 vessels per year, just large amounts. But the first vessel was like the loading. I don't know what's happening. Like I'm worried all the time how it's gonna go, how the buyer will react, how will they like treat this matter or everything. Then okay, it's voyage time. Okay, and then the vessel comes, the vessel arrives. Again, you're worried because it's 40,000 tons being unloaded for the first time. It's like really stressful. But that's just for the first vessels. Then you get into it, then you understand that it's nothing to be worried about. That's really on a good side. So this is just to break down the pros and the cons for both containers and bulk vessels. So, yeah. So if we touch European market, like first I wanted to again showcase the imports of the Indian ferrous scrap. Like it's growing. It's really good like signature for that. Can we move further? Here we can see the same amounts that India is procuring, but at the same time with the orange color, I pointed out how much of the piece is for Europe, how much material is bought from Europe. Right? And we see again, it's growing. Of course, yeah, it was COVID time, but still, last year it was almost 30%, which is 1/3 of whole volume, which is actually a really good number of that. So I think India and Europe, in that sense, they're kind of on a one wave. We can work together in that sense. If we look at the European market and also that matter with India, we understand that since electric arc furnaces are becoming more and more popular, the demand will only increase for the scrap material. Actually, I don't like to talk about scrap material. It's a raw material. It's a precious thing that we have to use in our business. Of course, this is business, but again, in that sense, we have to think that we are doing a great thing for our industry, our world. We're like saving environment in that sense. But due to recycling, the demand will only increase. But you have to also understand that the price in upcoming years will grow like really high, because in Europe we have to understand that there is geopolitical situation. There is next to us, you are far from that, but Ukraine and Russian war is happening right next to us, and we are facing like a really serious energy crisis. Or just to make our shredder work, just to make to shred 1,000 tons of material, it's the cost is doubled. Like it's really, really costly for us. Electricity, gas, everything. It's really also at the same sense the freight rate is rising like really high. But we'll talk about that a bit later. If we talk about Europe, then a big factor is seasons, and by that I mean winter, because in winter the price for procuring material is really increasing. That is for one point. Second thing is that it's much harder to get the material in winter because it's snow. No one wants to work in snow, and that's in winter in that sense. Also, yeah, what I talked about EAF. Also in Europe, there's a trend that in the last 2 years we see that the available material is like lowering the amount of it. Not substantially, but still. Of course, we expect it at some point to be more, to rise the level, but still, it's quite an issue in that sense. There's also European unions desire that they want to ban. They made this raw material scrap as a strategic material. This is, in my opinion, this is complete nonsense. We have a lot of material. We have excess material. That's why we are exporting. EU 28 is the largest exporter of scrap material in the world. But this is okay. I don't want to talk about the reasons behind it because we're in Europe and I might get caught on it. But behind that, I think it's still just politics. There is nothing else but politics. But we can talk about this ban a bit later. Also, in that sense, as I previously, what we saw that European piece of the pie for Indian market is getting higher and higher. With that, I mean that Europe and India is becoming closer and closer in all, not only in scrap, I mean also in medicine and construction and everything. We are getting closer and we start to finally understand each other in the last years. This is also true. So let's move a bit further. Financial obstacles in bulk cargoes. I really don't like this name obstacle. It's not an obstacle. Obstacle may be from the buyer's side, from the steel mill, but the idea is like they never bought scrap in large quantities in vessels. Only 10% of what they buy is only in bulk, because I think that it was the old mentality that this was something weird, that this was something difficult, something not for us. I mean, for the middle mills or small mills. But now today, when we see the middle average age of people in our industry is coming younger and younger, like sons, nephews, daughters are coming into this industry, and they understand that it's 21st century. They use analytics. They see that maybe in 2 months freight rate price market will be there, so it will be easier to buy in a bulk. So these youngsters, they are using analytics in their business, which is a really good thing. So they are, I think, I have actually noticed that with many of our buyers that youngsters are encouraging the owners of the company to just to at least consider doing bulk shipments, which is really good. Again, this is the bad experience with European exporters, what I meant with the containers. Yeah. But again, this is the old Europe. Now there are many companies that are doing open books. That's like we are always inviting. We're open to receive, to come to. Oh, guys, come visit us. We'll show you the material. You'll participate in loading. There's nothing to be worried about. Yeah. Also, if you have one bad experience with one seller, that doesn't mean that everyone is like this. You can try it. Just do your homework. Come visit, source it out, check it, talk to us, keep in constant contact. Like, even there are some times that other buyers from India are coming to visit our loadings for different buyers, just so they can see how it's happening, that this is not, that the bulk vessel, it's not a monster, something that you have to be afraid of. And again, same thing about the market. Like, everyone is afraid of the market. If I buy today, what will happen tomorrow with the market? Yeah. But in this sense, what I mentioned before, that the transit time for bulk vessels is really, really fast. In that sense, you can't really take a risk. And again, since these youngsters are coming in this industry, they use analytics as tool to see where market is going, what could happen next, what is happening today. This is a really good sign for that, for us. Paying customs duty in one take. This is, I understand, for some buyers, this is a really big issue, because if you buy one vessel, which is around 15-20 million dollars, of course you have to pay customs duties. But again, there is a way, because now I see the trend that, like, for example, 5, 6, 7 steel mills are getting together and they decide to buy one bulk vessel together. But in that case, you don't have to pay these custom duties all by yourself, but each part pays only for there, because seller can assure that there will be, for example, 5 or 6 bill of ladings for that. Each buyer gets his own share. This is really an important thing that helps the buyer just to maintain the financial flow. There is issue also with container and bulk rates. For a long time, containers were like really, really expensive, and then they dropped really, really fast. But at the same time, bulk it's quite stable. Of course, it fluctuates plus or minus, but it's not that big of a deal. But we'll touch that a bit later when I'll get to the rates. Yeah. So let's move on. Here are the rates. You see that for containers, this is last 1.5 years. In last year, August 2022, the rate was from Europe about $80. 1 year, 3 months later, we see that the drop is like 75%. It's a huge drop. And this also explains that drop in Indian markets for bulk vessels, because they noticed that containers are cheaper, they're buying in containers, but it still doesn't solve other problems that container brings in that sense. Also, you have to understand that container rates will only grow now. They will not drop down more. They already are growing now, and they will keep growing because of the emissions control in European Union and the whole wide world. Actually, they are controlling. They have to buy newer vessels, which is more expensive. And of course, large shipping companies as MSC, Maersk, or CMA, they won't pay for that. They will simply put it into the rate, and the final consumer will pay for it, which means the rate will really get higher and fast. Can we go further? Here you see the bulk, that what I mentioned is the rate is quite stable. Of course, it was higher, then it dropped, then it gets back again, but plus minus, it's going the same level. It will also probably increase, but not that much as in containers. So let's move to the next slide so we can compare. You see container and bulk shipment rates. At some point, bulk was like much cheaper than container shipments. Now, for the last half a year, 4 months, it has really changed the picture because bulk has become more expensive in that sense for the rate. But again, if you buy with bulk, the cost for material becomes a bit lower. Yeah. But next year, I imagine spring, summer, the price will again be at the same level that it is now. Like, I mean, containers, bulk, there won't be such a huge difference, like a gap there, like it's now. Because now it's crazy, it's $50 difference. It's now, but this is just the market situation as it is. This is like a really, really huge problem for bulk vessels right now. But again, this is just a trend that's happening right now. It will change, it will become much more approachable. So let's move on. Yeah, this is actually a quite difficult situation here. Let's move further. Today's market, it's really unpredictable, and it's, to be honest, it's crazy. It's to foresee, to make a forecast, it's really, really hard. There are so many things that can influence it. There are so many things then that can change the market like in one day. The same thing is like nature disasters. What we saw, what happened in Turkey this year in February, yeah, when there was an earthquake in Iskenderun, the market just broke. The market went down for a few months. After that, of course, it regained, and once it regained, yeah, the India lost on it because Turkey needed the material at that time. So nature, politics, it's really crazy. Same thing about elections. Now you see that today in India, there just recently there were regional elections in India. Everything stopped. Now we are waiting for spring where there will be government elections, which will again everything will stop for sure. That's why market is really, really slow today. Also, if we talk about, this is also becoming a trend in the last years that everyone gets sanctioned. There are some restrictions for Emirates, for example. Emirates can't export it. India can't import from somewhere. Europe can't export to some countries because of the sanctions or some kind of weird restrictions that are becoming. Because, to be honest, if you simply look at the reasons why these restrictions are made, it's completely nonsense. It's complete nonsense because there are no reasons these politicians can explain why this happens. Of course, they give reasons, but it's just plain some fact that really does not consist with the situation as a whole. Also, we have to understand that procurement is now rising. The material is getting more and more expensive just to buy it for exporter. We buy it for higher price. We recycle for a higher price due to the energy costs today. So add logistics, add freight. You can't really sell below. It's not like 20 year 2000 to 2008 before the crisis when all the recyclers got so high profit because of this. Now the margin is like really small what we can earn because of all of these costs, and we can't just simply increase the price as we want because we understand there's a market, there is demand, and we have to go with it. This is a really hard thing for us, for supplier today. Also, as we talk about elections now, India had Diwali recently, India had elections, and the market is simply, just not to put in other words, it's completely dead today, if you see. And in the next slide, we can move to the next slide. this is the price comparison for India and Turkey for melting scrap, for HMS, right? We always see that it's going step by step. With if Turkey rises price, it takes 2-3 weeks and India gets back there. So now what we are seeing that Turkey is buying at 425, $430 per ton. India can't pay these levels. Plus, if you add freight rate, it's just impossible to sell there. It's completely crazy. But due to this Diwali elections, it takes longer time to India to get back on their feet. But it will happen, of course, it will happen. Also, when we understand that India is increasing really their market, worldwide market part, we see that I really truly believe that in a couple of years, we won't follow what's Turkey doing. We will follow what is India doing. India will be the one who will set the trend. So rest of the world will follow you guys, how you are doing. What your market will be the benchmark for everyone else in the world. I really give it 2 years and Turkey, India will reach the same level. 3-4 years, 5 years, and India will become world leader in that sense. It's something that is inevitable. It it comes and you can't change that. India, in this such sense, you guys are really smart. You politics are in the right sense. You're on the right path. You're like you guys are doing really great in that sense. So yeah, in general, about this year as a whole, like we understand that after the earthquake, Turkey just stopped, and on supplier side, it was kind of panic. Everyone just went to India, of course. Yeah, like also bulk increased. A lot of bulk increased in this year, in that February, March, April, and the end of this year, because they had to put their material somewhere, and India exploited the situation, but really good. Also, at the same time, bulk rates at that time, exactly at that time, they were really available. But now, what we see, like last month, last 1.5 months, ship owners also understand that India is really desirable place to be. Yeah. So for supplier, we want to go to India, but ship owners understand that, and they raise their price really high, which is not favorable for supplier or for buyer in that sense. Let's let's see how next year ends up, because I really think that containers and bulk shipments will be at the same level. I mean, by the rate. Of course, we have to wait while Indian mills will start to buy more and more in bulk. I expect if this year it was, I think it was 20%, something like ratio between bulk and containers, then in next year it might even go to 30%. Sometime later it will be maybe equal, like 50-50. We don't know. We really don't know. The topic is about South Asia, but by South Asia, to be honest, I don't see any competitors for India as a whole. Because, again, as you mentioned, Vietnam, Bangladesh, they are facing this economical crisis. They don't have foreign currency. Bangladesh can't open one LC. They can, of course, they can buy, they can pay the seller everything they need, yeah, but it will be 10 LCs, 10 letters of credit, which is something that sellers are really afraid of, and they don't want to get into that because they're not sure, am I gonna be paid or not? I'm not gonna be paid. So in that sense, let's go better to India, because we know that economics are really strong there. Their banks are good. Their banks can supply us. That's really good in that matter. Because also, just for financing, if you look at our region, Europe is kind of weird in that way because we don't like anything that's either Swiss, either USA, because rest for us it's like something weird. We don't trust them. Morocco, we can't do banking with Morocco because we are afraid, our banks are afraid that there will be some kind of fraud, there will be some kind of issues with money or anything. But for India, this is the third thing that USA, Swiss, and India, we trust these banks. So banking LCs are really, really safe and smooth in that sense. So we have absolutely no problem from Europe with India to do the financing part, which is not the case for Bangladesh, Vietnam, or any in that matter of these countries. This is really, really good. So this was a short version for me, just to bring in some key notes, just to understand the differences between container bulk and the European market. If you have some questions, it will be easier for me to answer in like directly.
Thank you, Mr. Edwins, for sharing your views on the container versus bulk discussion. It was very insightful to know, Miss, how Europe is doing and what are the freight, where are the differences basically on the quantity side, or what are the advantages on the freight side, and also on the the overall costing and not only the securing material but also the quality side. But I was more curious, and I think our audience will be also more curious to know, means what is the state of Europe's current scrap collection and the scrap generation. So what has happened, what was there before Russia and Ukraine conflict and Turkey's earthquake, and what changed just after that?
You have to understand, because the European market, the local market for procuring, it's really tough. The competitiveness is really, really, it's on another level. For new entities, for new market participants just to enter Europe, I don't want to be like pessimist or everything, but it's basically impossible to come for new players inside, because imagine whole of Europe, there are 10 top players, and these top 10 players are like really, really fighting for their market share. So understandably, the price for just procuring is rising. Everything is rising. It's very, very hard to get material for like 10 years ago. Today it's a completely different picture. And for Europe, everything was until now, like until the earthquake, I think. It was like they collect everything and they sell to Turkey. What's left, they sell to India. Now, after the earthquake, many European buyers, like sellers, suppliers, they understood that we can't rely only on one market. We have to look for other places. And thank God, most of them found India as a solution. Yeah. But again, this is the thing about the quality material. There are some of our, for example, for our competitors that does really bad material. Not like, I mean in quality. You have to understand the Europe as a whole, that West Europe, they have light, thin material. Eastern Europe that still has that post-Soviet Union material, which is much thicker, much heavier. Like also same for Scandinavia, that material is pure. Yeah. And in that sense, we are in quite a good position because we get a lot of inquiries in that sense, because due to our material. But again, now we just to learn from these mistakes with Turkey. Yeah, the earthquake came, it was a disaster, of course. Everyone ran to India. Now, when Turkey is again buying, most of the suppliers are going there. But again, in my opinion, like we are doing, we are still keeping open books with India. We're still, even if it's below the market price, even if we can earn in Turkey like $5-10 more, we'll still do India because we have to take that position in that sense. We want to be there. We want to be present. We understand that the future will change the weight scales, that India will become a huge powerhouse in that sense. And we want to be there for you. That's why also, for example, in quality matter, when we sold first vessel to India, what we did was we went there ourselves and we started to talk about them, about the quality material. For example, when you put the material into use, what is the yield you are getting? What did you not like? What did you like? What we can do to improve? What is good for you? So we change our procurement. We buy only exactly for that market. So since we in Tolmets we have 4 ports of loading, we have Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, and Poland. Yeah, we are designating 2 ports for India, 2 ports for Turkey, and let's see how it goes.
Yeah.
Because
So,
you
Mr.
can't,
Admin,
you just can't leave India behind because
yeah,
you're
you rightly mentioned that you're also looking at the India as a prominent buyer, and you will keep sharing the material. We got one interesting question from our audience side also. Mr. Sanket is asking. Currently, you rightly mentioned that the deals are happening at 425 to 430 levels in Turkey, and
yeah.
now a lot of consignments got booked in last 1 week or last 2 to 3 days. I think you can see, I think 5 to 6 consignments also booked in last 2 or 3 days. And the levels are quite high. I think 425 to $430 for Turkey. Since Europe is a traditional supplier to Turkey, you are more familiar with the Turkey market. You also match the quality and what the expectation of Turkey's producers. What do you think you will still supply material to the India in the current situation?
That's the thing. This is the current situation because Turkey is buying now for January shipments. Because now with the Israeli and Hamas with Palestine situation, Israel just got Turkey just got back Israel and Jordan as their markets. They're selling. There is demand. Everything. Today there is no material to be sold elsewhere. Also, I keep in touch every day with Indian buyers. They just don't buy. The level they just can't buy anything because there's this uncertainty until elections. There is no demand. What's the point in buying 30,000 tons of scrap if you don't know where to put them? This is not the case when you can simply, oh, I want, I will sell there. But there is no point. I want, I will buy 30,000 tons. Of course, no one will buy. We're talking about bulk. Even container shipments are dropped so significantly. There's no point in talking about bulk in this sense. Because you
Yeah,
have to understand, as I mentioned before, India is following Turkey really fast.
yeah.
Give it February, the price will be the same.
Yeah. So basically, there is a lot of interest from our audience side to know about the price difference. Means, if you can mention, means what is the price difference? What was the price difference between bulk versus container in 2022, and how the market has changed in 2023?
This is the thing, yeah. Because this was also a case from both sides. Buyers did not buy bulk so much, and sellers did not sell to India because it was weird. But if you just check simple statistics, simple analytics, last year, half a year, 6 or 7 months, if I'm not wrong, firstly, container rate was higher than bulk rate. Secondly, material price was higher in India than in Turkey. So if you sell to India, it was much more profitable than to sell to Turkey for the same material, for example. But the reason I think is again that this somehow Indian buyers are afraid to use these bulk shipments. But again, this is what I'm when I invite Indian buyer to visit us, we show them port, we show how we procure, we show how we load, and they become much like calmer. They understand that they can influence. It's not like with containers. You buy something, you pay for something, it become 3 months later you get the material and you don't see. Yeah, oh, it's either bad, it's good, you don't know. But with bulk, you can influence it, you participate it. It's not why we're selling. Again, this coin has two sides. We don't look at it like buyer seller, we look like partners. For example, we had a really good case when we sold the vessel to India, and it was the first bulk vessel for this buyer. Yeah, and okay, we did it, everything, we sold, the vessel sailed. In about a week we got our money, and but the vessel did not reach the destination. In a sense, we're finished. Yeah, we're good, we received our money, we loaded, we sold, that's good. About 5 days before the arrival, the buyer understood that he did not do his homework, and actually it turned out that he needed some kind of certificates for import. And he was in a panic. He was really in a panic. What we did, like in theory, what we could have done, say, sorry, this is your problem because we did our part. We did everything you asked for. Of course, we're not going to turn our back on him. We understand this is your first deal, and if you want to do it, if you stepped up, you just, of course there are mistakes. So we helped this guy. We gave him all these certificates, all everything. The guy, it went 2 weeks. This vessel got discharged in 2 weeks. The guy is calling me, oh my God, thank you so much because I could not sleep. I thought the material will be left there. We already paid these 20 millions to you, and we're not, and you still did not turn your back on us. And
Yeah.
this feeling is quite amazing. And
Yeah.
also, this was on
So,
the
so
plus
these
side.
partnerships are very much required, especially in the bulk case, looking at the volume and the amount of money required. I think, yeah. So one of our participant, Mr. Amit Goel, he's asking, I think, how many vessels tournaments do on a yearly basis, on an annual basis. I think you have rightly mentioned it is around 50 vessels which you
Yeah.
do on basis. And one of the audience also want to know is how you do your pricing for the different grades. Is there any specific data between HMS 8020, HMS1, and the bonus scrap? Means how you do the costing? Means what is your way of looking at the price for a particular
It is
market? Suppose if you take the current example, can you please quote just for the reference of our because you are addressing the buyer side, they will have a good
no.
insight.
This is the thing that for example, bonus PNS material shredder, we have really high quality. And in that sense, usually we ask by default or $20 or $25 above the HMS side. Yeah.
Yeah.
But HMS, we don't split it as 1 and 2. We make a mix of 80/20, for example. But the difference is that 80/20 is a interesting term, because if in West Europe you buy 80/20, but in fact you know that you're getting 50/50 at best. Yeah, this is an
This
issue.
is going to be my next question.
This
This is going to be my
this
next
is the thing. This is the advantage of our region, because we still, again, as I mentioned, we are procuring exactly what India wants. If they want 80/20, they pay for 80/20. That it's our responsibility to give you what you buy, because again, this is bulk vessel. We don't want to sell you one vessel and leave you. We want
But
to
if we,
do regular shipments.
you
We
see,
want to do
Mr.
part.
Sorry to interrupt you, but if we want to look it into the absolute numbers, means what will be the delta between different grades for India? If we consider India as a buyer, then what will be the difference? Means the typical difference which normally prevails in the market from the Europe. Yeah.
Today, if you tell me today, I would add above HMS, I would add $15 for bonus.
Mm-hmm.
That's today.
Okay. And
But just understanding the current market that we have to support the buyer in that sense.
Is that
If
also varies depending upon the source of the material or the location?
Actually, no, because this is one thing that we are really working on. Of course, we have wide range of export ports, and this is our different regions. But
Yeah.
we, as a brand, we want to, if you buy from Tomets, we don't care if it's Estonia or if it's Poland, the quality has to be the same. So our goal is when you come, I want to buy from Tomets, you don't have to ask from where it's coming because you know it's from Tomets and the quality will be the same. This is
Yeah.
like, that's really important just to build a brand. And again, you don't have to, of course, this is the reality today that you look at the regions, the origin where you're buying. This is the classical question, but this is what we want to avoid. This is
Correct.
from Tomets, you're getting quality that you pay for.
Yeah.
That's
One final question, Mr. Edwin. I think when we talk to the market and especially from the buyer side here in India, so they say there is a huge quality difference between what is supplied to Turkish market and what is being supplied in the Indian market. As you rightly mentioned, means Turkish buyer, they are able to, they are okay with inferior quality of HMS 8020. Means usually, but for India, I think HMS 20 literally means that you have to give 80% or 20% of better material. So is there difference in the quality? Is this exist in the material in the market? Yeah.
Yeah, in that sense, it's true actually, because as I mentioned, that we went to Indian buyers, we ask what they want, how they look, we invite them to look at the material, and then we see that there is this difference: what Turkey buys and what India buys. How we deal with it, we split our ports, we split our regions. There are some ports, some regions where we are procuring exactly for Turkish market. There are some regions we procure exactly for Indian markets. So there is not a mix. The problem is, for example, when we had not touched this, but to be honest, I am afraid that someday this might happen if we make a deal with India and they some kind drop out of the deal, and then we have to resell this material to Turkey. This is what I'm afraid of. But thank God we had a good history with procuring, to checking with our suppliers, with our buyers, to make that our partners are really reliable in that sense.
Yeah.
Because you still understand it's 21st century. Not everyone is good and honest in this sense.
Yeah. So what to you, Madhumita ma'am, if you have any questions? I think we are also very short of the time and we have exceeded the the session timing. Yeah.
I don't think I have any questions, but I just want
We have exceeded the
tell
time limit.
the audience. Just want to tell the audience that you don't have to buy bulk vessel today or tomorrow or day after tomorrow, but you can come. You can keep in contact. We can share information once we see that there is a good opportunity for India to procure in bulk. We can offer that. We can. Until that, you can come visit us, see our facilities, get to know each other, because business over email or over phone, it's one thing, but when you get face to face, it's completely a different thing.
That's right. Thanks a lot, Edwin. And we have actually crossed the time limit, so we need to close this. But it was a very, very informative session. It was a session that touched upon various aspects, and I really hope the audience found it very informative. There are still a few questions which went unanswered, and we can hopefully get those answered by you, Mr.
You can
Krebs,
send
later
these
on,
questions over me, and
because
I can.
there were some very, very interesting questions. One was on whether scrap can be procured through the futures platform. But we have to close it today.
No worries,
And
but please send these questions over me and I
yeah,
can
I
answer.
think we will. I think we will. But thank you
Well,
so much for giving us your time and sharing your
thank you
thoughts.
for the opportunity.
And JP, thank you for co-hosting the webinar with me. We have to bring the curtains down on Steel Mint Engage 5.0. We will come back next year with some more engaging webinars. On that note, I'm Madhumita Mukherjee, Group Editor, Steel Mint, saying bye. Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Edwin. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.